Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for Thursday, June 9th, 2022. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. As again, I also live on Facebook. Here it is Mountain Time, 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I am, as I mentioned on the Facebook podcast, I am live every Thursday afternoon at this time. Let's go getting it started. Lots of things to talk about this week. So the May 22 Google Core Update is officially done rolling out. I think there's still probably a possibility that they'll go back and maybe fix some things or adjust some things over the next few weeks. So we may continue to see some changes. But if you are looking at your search engine rankings and traffic, and you have, there's two things. I mean, obviously 3 ways. Either your website traffic has tanked and went down in your rankings, especially your organic traffic from Google. And if what I've seen is, if you've been affected, you are affected in a big way. And with this May 22 core update, I have not seen, I've seen some positives. So I've seen sites where they went up in rankings, but not like huge, massive jumps. Whereas, there was some lift, some good lift. And then there are some websites that just really, they didn't see too many big changes. It was, what I've seen in certain graphs, whereas the where rankings went, over a period of maybe a week or two, they went up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down as Google was, doing this core update and looking at different things back and forth. So, and then usually that happens and then everything kind of settles down and they're done rolling out. This update was for all languages, all countries, essentially everything in Google organic rankings. So like I said, we may continue to see some minor changes, but basically anything like that, changes won't affect a lot of many websites. We don't really know specifically. There are some people who think they know, and if and however, Google themselves haven't come out and said, and they won't with core updates. They don't come out specifically and say, okay, this core update affected this or this or this, or we looked at links, or we looked at this or that. There's nothing in particular specifically. So anyway, so if you did have a big problem and you did have tank in rankings, there's probably a big issue with the site. And that's when you would need basically someone like me to come in and do a full technical SEO audit of the site and look at everything to see if there are any, excuse me, if there are any issues that really stand out as far as being a major issue. So moving on, Bing, Microsoft Bing has actually been testing moving the ads to a separate tab under the search bar. So basically that means like in Google, just like in Bing, when you do a search and when you search and you have the results, in Bing, you'll not see any results. You'll actually see tabs like they normally have: news, images, shopping, video, etc. Okay, in the tabs, and Bing has added a tab called ads, where that's where all the ads are. Now, I don't think that's going to last. I think it's just a test to see what would happen. I don't think that they necessarily had any good benefits from that. When I was looking at earlier, like half an hour ago, I didn't see that ads tab anymore. So I don't think that they're real, I think it was a limited test, but some were reporting it. And so it is an interesting test. These have come up this week, questions about image alt text. And actually, you've heard image alt text or image alt attributes. They're technically image alt attributes, where it's a description. The alt tag is a description of what is in that image. That's the intent. Okay, and so when people optimize web pages, they tend to try and put a keyword into that image alt text of the image that appears on a page. Now, basically, the question that came up was whether or not, if you have, let's say, 100 images on your website, and you don't necessarily have time to go through every single one and type an image alt attribute for every image. Right. And if that's the case, some people have been taking, say, their company name or website name and just putting it on there on every image, so there's at least something there. John Mueller from Google came out and said, well, that's probably just a waste of time. It doesn't mean anything. So, most likely we're kind of in this, when I deal with it, part of my SEO process, part of my optimization process is, let's say, a WordPress website. I will literally, if I'm doing it, or I will have somebody do it, go into the media section, where basically you have a thumbnail of every single image. You click on the first image, and there's a section to put in image alt attribute, a title, a description, and a caption. And so what I like to do is, at a minimum, go through every single image on the site and just basically describe that image. If it is an image of a house, or a man and a woman standing in front of a house, then that attribute is man and woman standing in front of a house. If you could, that it's plain and simple. And so go through at a minimum, rather than taking, say, your company name or website name, putting that in every single alt attribute, what I would specifically do is just take the time and make, it might take an hour, it might take a couple hours, it might not take that long, but to go through, just tab through those images and paste the description. If it is someone typing on a laptop, then it's someone typing on a laptop, okay, or hands, someone, male hands, if it's obvious, or a woman, whatever it is, typing on a laptop. Now that's your default, okay, that's the description of the image. Now, if later on you're optimizing that page in particular for, let's say, digital marketing as a keyword, and you have a piece of, have a photo of somebody typing on a laptop, you could put, in theory, optimize that, or add in, somebody working on their digital, man working on a digital marketing campaign by typing on laptop. Okay, there you're adding some additional, you're adding that keyword in there. That's, I would say the best practice, or that's the way I would deal with it. That's the way I do deal with it, is that, like you said, part of that SEO process of optimizing the site is going through each image and adding legitimately what that image is. Okay, not just throwing in a keyword, say, with that image of someone on a laptop and putting the word out, digital marketing, because that's not really, it's a laptop. It's not and somebody typing on it. It's not digital marketing. Now, if the image itself has text, and it's, maybe in red neon text, and it's an image that says the words digital marketing, well, that's different, because you are describing what's in that image, which is the words digital marketing. Now, that would be appropriate. Now, we come into, here's where it gets interesting, is that when we have an image that says digital marketing, The question is whether the search engines can read the word digital marketing in that image. We know Google can, and we know the technology exists. Now, we know, and I've done it specifically, is if that image was uploaded to Google Maps or essentially a Google Business Profile listing. Okay, if that was uploaded, and then their technology or what they're using there, they are able very much so to read text in an image, like read text on a sign. They read the text, a sign of a business. If there's a placard on the side, on a business, and they're able to read the text, the name of the business, the suite number, maybe the phone numbers on there, whatever. They're able to read that. They're actually, also on a door of a business, they'll typically have the hours of the business on the door if it's a retail business, right? So what they will do is they will have, Google's able to, and they read the hours of the business, and they read text and photos. Now, whether or not that's been carried over to organic search, we don't know yet. I don't think it has, because what I've done is I have some images that are on a site, on different sites, that are clearly like that example, an image with a word in it. Okay, and that is a made up fictitious word, a series of characters. Okay, that doesn't appear anywhere else on the web, and it won't. So I have a Google alert set up for that keyword or that series of letters. And if Google starts to, their organic search results start to recognize text and images, then I will probably get a Google alert for that. Now, I have not gotten a Google alert. I know this is kind of a roundabout way of, and not very, technically scientific way of proving whether or not Google's reading text and images or not. But I've had those images out there on those sites for years, over 10 years. And I've been looking at this, and to this day, I have not received a Google alert for that character. And when when I do a search, I check it every so often, there's no results. And even images, there's no results. So we know they're not doing it yet. But again, at some point, I believe they will. I don't, like I said, in Google Maps, it's different because they're using different technology or different, they built that algorithm, if you will, separately than they did with the Google algorithm for organic, which has been around for a lot longer. So anyway, moving on, we're going to talk about some Handshake, crypto, blockchain related domain names. Also, they're called unstoppable domains. Unstoppabledomains.com sells these as well. So there, it's essentially a TL, just like a .com, .net, .org, you can buy a .x, a .crypto, .coin. These are the unstoppable domains ones. So .x, .crypto, .coin, .wallet, .bitcoin, .888, .nft, .dao, .zil, and .blockchain. Those costs to buy a domain like Hartzer.x is anywhere from $20 to $200. $200 for .x domains. Now, it's a one-time fee. You register it essentially forever, and it's yours, right? Keep in mind, though, these are not ICANN approved TLDs. That is a big issue. So to actually get to one, you need some kind of browser add-on, and you need to do something in your browser. They don't resolve. I mean, you can't really put up a Hartzer.x or Hartzer.crypto domain in a website on that domain, because they won't really resolve in most browsers. You have to do that additional step. Okay, and that's kind of an issue. The other issue is that there are no ways to recover one of those domains if the domain is stolen. And that's a big issue for me, because I deal with a lot of domains that are stolen for clients. So there's no established way also for any trademark owners or anybody to recover that domain like there is with ICANN. ICANN, there is a tried and true method of filing a domain dispute either through the URS or UDRP system. And so that is key here. With the crypto domain or blockchain related domain, NFT related domain, there is no oversight committee essentially of those domains and TLDs. And so if you were to, for example, somebody went in and bought your trademark.x or .crypto, the problem is that you have really no recourse. So it's just a matter of that right now, somebody bought it ahead of you. And so, there are people out there who are buying, Nike.crypto and all these, different domains, and they are trademarks, and they have no right really to use that mark, that domain. The trade, it's a registered trademark. So we don't, so right now it's kind of still a Wild West, so to speak. It could be a good investment. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if it is a, generic word, .wallet, .coin, and it makes sense, or whatever it is, it's not a trademark, then sure. I mean, they could be worth something later on. But again, we don't know. So since there's no really regulatory way to get, to dispute the ownership, you may want to actually consider going out and getting your brand, getting your trademark name, just to cover everything, because there's no recourse. Now with .com, .net.org and ICANN approved TLDs, those 1,300, if somebody does buy, your trademark name and you have the trademark, you have been doing business as that name, well, there is and somebody happens to go in and buy that name, there is a recourse for you. You can go through the UDRP domain dispute process and dispute the ownership. And so that, that kind of means basically that you don't really need to go and buy 1,300 or even 100 or the top 500 endings for your trademark, because you're possibly protected. But consider that you may need to go buy your brand and trademark now with the crypto domains. Keep in mind, though, that these are very much like real names were in the past. So real names was essentially, the concept was you could buy a keyword that when somebody put that keyword into their web browser, it would take them to your website. Let's look at the word shopping. Okay, so you could buy, actually through real names, you could buy the word shopping. When somebody put in shopping, it would go to they would be taken to your website. Essentially, it's a shortcut. Okay, it's a, essentially what's the, there's not really any difference between putting a domain name in there, shopping.com, versus putting in, shopping.x or shopping.crypto or shopping.coin or, or the real names, right? Well, real names required, and like these crypto domains, they required an add-on, something special that was not put in every browser by default. And so the person not only had to put in add this add-on. They had to know to put in just the word shopping, and they then were taken to your website. The problem is that again, it's an add-on. And so out of everybody who has a web browser, it's not added on by default. And so it's not there. So if somebody, you buy, even though you buy, Hartzer.coin, no one can get to it unless they put in that, extension or add-on to their browser. I believe the Opera web browser has it built in, but a lot of people don't use browser. Safari, Firefox, and Chrome are the main ones. Until we have that adoption by those browsers, that these essentially, these non-ICANN approved TLDs work, then, my opinion is that, it could be a good investment. It's still the Wild West, and we don't know. And so just keep in mind that, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen with them. It's, you take your chances. So the NamesCon auction, NamesCon is a domain name conference that is held every year, and it is for the domain name industry specifically. And people come from all over the world to that conference. And so every year they actually hold a live auction of domain names. And Right Off the Dot is the company that administers the auction, essentially. And they're looking for premium domains to be listed in the auction. So if you do have a premium name, one that you think has a lot of value, feel free to run it by me, by the way, and I'll tell you whether it's a premium domain or not. But you can submit it and submit that name, and if they choose, they will list it in the auction. You can put a reserve on the name, or you can have it as no reserve on the name. There are deadlines involved for submitting, and I don't know those off the top of my head, but it was just kind of announced. So I would get on the ball if you are wanting, if you are having you have domain names that you want to sell that you think are premium, that are worth, if they're worth $10,000 or more, I would definitely get them listed. If in the NamesCon auction. That is also, auction that is online, but it also is in person as well, for the best names. Speaking of domain names, so there's a lawsuit filed this week in the state of Virginia, stating that there were 30 stolen domain names that from GoDaddy. Somebody basically logged into a GoDaddy account and stole the names and put the names in their name and stole the domain names. This is not the first time that somebody has filed a lawsuit in Virginia, because these are .com names, and VeriSign, the registry, which owns .com, is located in Virginia, so that's why they filed it there. Definitely a case to be watching, as this method of recovering stolen domain names may be appropriate for some of these cases that I'm working on right now. So I will be following this and so forth. Yeah, if there are, this method of filing a lawsuit based on the fact that an account was hacked, if that is, that may be an option for some people. If the UDRP and the URS are not an option, there are some crazy situations where a trademark was not involved. However, somebody did have their domain registrar account hacked, and someone stole the domain name. This is an option, which would be to file a lawsuit in the state of Virginia. Finally, let's talk about Ahrefs. Ahrefs, which is typically ahrefs.com, by the way. They have revealed a new search engine called yep.com, yep.com. Great domain, great name for a search engine. And, they spent a lot of money, and a lot of resources to create the search engine. Now, Ahrefs has actually started off as a link crawler and providing competitive link data or linked data for websites. They do offer a lot of kind of other options, a lot of other data, including keywords and so forth. Have some really good tool set. Now, actually, since it is a link crawler and they basically report data about your website, I've actually been blocking Ahrefs crawlers for probably over 10 years. And I've never really seen a direct benefit, to benefit me for allowing them to crawl my website. Okay, for example, I know about my website. I can crawl my own website. I know what links are on my website. I know everything about my site. At least hopefully I do. So to allow a link crawler, any link tool that out there like Ahrefs, Ahrefs, Moz, whatever crawlers are out there that report on link data, okay, or other data about your site. The only real benefit to you allowing them to crawl your site is that you're essentially allowing them to find data about your website, who you link out to, right? The only people that benefit from that really are your competitors. So why give out that data? I don't see any really compelling reason that benefits me personally or makes me any more money from my website or brings me more traffic by allowing a link crawler to crawl my site. Now, that said, we're in a different situation because Ahrefs is crawling your site, getting that data, but they're also using that data about your site for their search engine, which is a consumer-based search engine. So there may be some benefits, additional benefits, and maybe some reasons, compelling reasons for you to allow Ahrefs crawlers to crawl your site. But right now, I don't see any benefits. I don't see the Yep search engine providing a lot of traffic. And so at this point, I'm going to continue to block Ahrefs crawlers on some of my websites because I don't see any benefit really to stop blocking them as I have for the past, 10, 15 years. So that said, if you have any questions, I know that may be controversial. However, I do have my, maybe some other reasons for blocking certain crawlers. However, I'll like to continue that conversation. So this has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast, as I do every week on Thursday at 1:30 p.m. live on Facebook. It is recorded, and you may be hearing this on your favorite podcast network, which includes iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, et cetera, et cetera. So any questions, comments, concerns, or you just want to run an idea by me that you have, feel free to get in touch. Hartzer.com or BillHartzer.com, or just search or Google my name, Bill Hartzer, and you will find me. That said, this has been the Thursday, June 9th edition of the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. We'll talk to you again next week.